Here's a message of importance to millions of people who are continually pale and washed out, weak and run down. Doctors will tell you that these conditions are often caused by a deficiency of iron. The iron you need to keep you physically fit and mentally alert. Medical studies show that 2 out of 3 women and many, many men lack the daily iron your body requires in a form your body can easily use and put to work. Every dose gives you more than your daily minimum iron requirement.
We are awake, we are awake, we are not alone. We are striving for more.
So if you're not getting the iron your body needs, if you feel weak, run down, and are easily upset, start taking iron today.
It's Friday, my dudes.
Thank God it's Friday.
Well, TGIF, everybody. Welcome to Have No Sphere, right here on the Iron Rail Media YouTube channel. My name is Josh Corey, and I'll be damned if it ain't Friday, my dudes. And I am glad of it if it's been a long week for me. I am a essential employee cubed, as my company is in the construction business and the healthcare business and, of course, the military business. But on the bright side, I'm still getting that $20 extra everyday hazard pay. Don't need it now, though, because it's time to relax. Let me introduce you to my family right here on the show, starting off with my partner in crime, in quotes, not really crime, over on the Ironworks on Truth Frequency Radio, one Mr. Zachary Zabala, Z squared. You can find him right here on YouTube at GUDTIMS, the number 4 ALL. That's Good Times for All. Zach. Well, did you get any sleep? I know you were tired as hell when we got off the air this morning.
A little bit. Yeah, it was like an hour and a half sleep. I don't know what's wrong with me. I laid down at like 9:30 last night, and last time I looked at the clock, it was like 1:30. And I got up at like 6:30 in the morning yesterday. It wasn't like I slept in all day or anything. It was the first time I had 8 hours of sleep in the last few weeks. It's been like 4 or 5 hours here, nap there. But yeah, this morning, I don't know. I fell back to sleep for a couple hours after the show and then got up and felt fine, and then went out, did some running, and when I got back, I was just like, I felt like I had just plowed a field. I don't know what was going on. I lay down and took a couple more hour nap, and it just took everything I had just to get up out of the bed. I don't know. Yeah, my sleep is all.
You got the COVID, Zach.
Yeah, is that what it is?
That's what it is.
Oh, man.
Somebody gave you the COVID.
I'm in a quarantine. I saw a lot more people wearing masks today here. I think it has to do with none of the Walmart employees had to wear masks up until last week. So you weren't at first. There's a few employees wearing them here and there. Then there was a couple more, and then there was like no employees wearing them. And I was like, cool, nobody's complaining about this. Everybody's being okay with it. And then I go in there today, and every single employee has a mask on and gloves. So somebody must have complained and said, blah, 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 blah. And then I noticed more people had them on even. There was two girls out in the parking lot trying to sell masks for $5 a piece.
Ain't nobody got time for that.
Yeah, isn't it? I agree. But yeah, things are getting back to normal. There was traffic today. I mean, there were so many people out and about. It was things are getting back to sanity, it seems.
Well,
slowly but surely.
That's a relative term, I guess.
Yeah. Relative sanity.
Well, since we're right there in Colorado, let's just glance on over and say hello to Mrs. Cammie Nodell. Cammie, how's your week been, ma'am? I've not spoken to you since last week.
It's true. We haven't since this time last week. It's been going good. And I even have some, because I do glance at the news headlines, I do even have some insight into the face masks in the Walmart for you, Zach. It turns out that in the news and on our news channels, like the biggest news headline in Denver is that the Walmart in Aurora got shut down because an employee died of coronavirus.
They shut it down because the employee died. It's not funny. I don't mean to laugh. Sorry.
Okay.
But they shut it down because the employee died.
I guess you have, they call it like a huge outbreak in the news. You have an employee, her husband, and then also a security guard from that store, also an independent security, handling. I don't know if he was sick or died. I'm not quite sure what, but all of a sudden we have a Walmart panic in Colorado. And so I think that when he went to the Walmart this morning and all the employees and that, they were, because they actually, to make the big news for us to have the big headlines, it was a Walmart that got shut down. So I think that's the answer to the employees and like why the Walmart changed so dramatically in a couple of days. Is people weren't scared enough, so you got to scare them a little bit more.
Throw a little more fear porn into the mix.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was fair porned out. But on the other news, what you did sleep through is it was really kind of fun because we are in a neighborhood, very much a suburban neighborhood with the little cul-de-sacs and that. And it seems that in our area of town, they had a group of people that made I would say probably about 15 cars and trucks long parade that they were going up and down through the neighborhood streets and calling for freedom, liberty, and in the lockdown. And people were cheering them on. I mean, I heard the commotion going around it for a while, but they made them their way down the streets. People came out forward, and it was very like positive. It was a very festive, surprise festive moment of the day.
Well, that's good. That's good to see. Good to see people stepping up a little bit.
Outbreak of happiness.
Right. The freedom cup floweth over.
It's good to remember. Good to remember like what you're fighting for and what you're fighting about. So something to always stop and ponder.
Definitely. Well, I want to give a quick shout out to one Mr. John Savage. And one Mr. Walter Johnson. Walt, I know how busy and exhausted you are. So once again, I am here offering up to you any and all life force energy that I can spare. All that I'm not using is yours to take. And lots of love and positive vibes to your family in Oregon and your family in Louisiana and all the family in between. But let's
love you guys.
Say hello to the Adam Meakin from across the pond. How you doing, Ed?
Yeah, good. I'll echo that, mate. Yeah, well, keep up the good work, Savage. Take it easy, pal. See you soon. And I think it's you and to love and strength to all the Johnson family, because I know they're all pulling together right now, and just wish them all the best. Yeah, and odd one today. Did we both appear at the same time in chat, me and Walt?
Pretty
or
well.
Was that?
Yeah, almost.
Yeah, it was within like 30 seconds.
Yeah.
Well, at least when Josh mentioned Walt being in there, I wasn't in chat, but yeah. He mentioned you, and then like 30 seconds later, or he mentioned Walt, and then like 30 seconds later, like, oh, and Adam. Dang, little party.
Barely made it, if only in chat. But yeah,
It may be he pops in tonight. I don't put it past him.
I hope so. Just before we move on, I've had a funny old week this week. Busy at work, and you know, his key workers, Josh. I'm not getting any bonus pay though. It's pissing me off. But I had a funny week on YouTube. I did, you know, a bit of QE as normal. Taking apart. Is it Professor? Is it Professor Phil Bell? Having a look at his rhetoric. Did a bit of Nathan's, but also got interviewed by some guys called Tom and Steve, who are on the Good Servant channel. They're people will probably know them in chat, but yeah, just want to give their channel a shout out. That's a Good Servant channel, Tom and Steve. So it was a bit theological. It descended, but not what I planned. But yeah, really good. I've known Tom for a while now, top bloke. So yeah, it was good fun going over there. So yeah, shout out to those guys, Good Servant channel. And yeah, that was my week, mate. What about yours? I'm getting sick of going out. I know everyone else is the same opposite, but
I would have loved to had some self-imposed quarantine time. You know how much I could get accomplished with 3 weeks off of work? Damn. But they're keeping me busy, and they're paying me, so it helps.
It's not what you think, Josh, though. I mean, part of it is what I can get done in the 3 weeks off, but it's the 3 weeks off that you're like, instead of getting things done, it's hard to focus because you ride waves of fear and what should you be doing or not doing, or what's going to happen. And I mean, it's not like a 3 week where you're going in with a good mindset. It's not the same.
I suppose that's true. Still.
So it's always good to have a dream. We always have a dream. I sit there and I go between, like on the dreams. I feel very, very fortunate, blessed to be able to quarantine with people, to be able to go in and out, to have a business that's an essential business that we have reason, you know, to go out and yet, you know, again, control it and that. And yet it's not the place I want to be. I want to be in Carolina. And so, you know, it's like it's a bittersweet. You're lucky to get up, but it would sure be nice to have that other side. I think we all live in that.
Mm-hmm. Well, I wanted to point out I got a new soundbite for my soundboard. It was inspired.
The iron you need to get what you want.
How good is that? One more time for the cheap seats.
The iron you
that's
need
good.
to get what you want.
That's what it is. Thank you so much, Nemo. Nemo is in chat right now as we speak. He left an awesome message, had us all rolling in our chairs with laughter.
Can you do one more time? I talked over the last one.
Oh, heck yeah.
The iron you need to get what you want.
I just had my flashback there, Josh. That's why the laugh was
Oh, yeah, to get what you want. That's right.
a legendary Nemo.
Yeah, and I'll probably be chopping that up a little bit more. That's just the one I could grab at 3:45 this morning before the show started, because I wanted to make sure I had it for the Ironworks, because we have that awesome little promo.
The iron you need to get what you want.
Would work really well right on the tail end of that, which is how I did it this morning. So thanks again, Nemo. Big shout out to you and your missus. But Kimmy, you actually brought us a guest this evening. Would you care to introduce the guest that you have brought us?
I did. I am so excited. He's jumping in and we're getting to know him tonight, but there's so much I want to learn from this man, somebody I've been following for a long time. And I definitely would like this show to be like a buildup of something more and better to come where, he has warning and time to get some presentations and that together and take it further. This is Elsie King, people. You see him in chat a lot. He is our battery expert. Like Zach and I constantly say, I wish I understood more how batteries worked and how different things function in the world of how things work. This is my like dream missing piece. It's a piece that I feel like I have a complete weakness in, and I feel he's a god in it almost in a way that's terrible. But I mean, I'm so impressed with his work and how he's bringing together. We all know that this realm works like a battery. I'd like to introduce everybody to Lucas because Lucas understands more than anyone and is going to maybe help us understand exactly how it all works. My passion, how it works. Welcome, Lucas.
Thanks for having me. That was a very nice introduction.
Well, we are honored to have you. It's always nice to make new friends, Lucas. Welcome to Have No Sphere.
Thank you. Yeah, so I've got a little channel that I run, and I've just been diving into the electric flat Earth sort of theory. So yeah, that's where I'm coming from.
Sorry, that's
And Lucas, in my world where I see things in the patterns and the colors and the energy flows, he's going to take actual reality and hopefully merge it. Like in my world, help me understand like what I'm seeing more. I have so much I want to learn from this man, and I'm so excited to have him on. So I don't know, Lucas, tell us a little bit more. You're on the spot.
Yeah, so basically what I did was, well, I didn't really start with the electric side of things. It was more, I was looking at the zodiac, and I'm like, wow, what is this thing? It really didn't make any sense to me. And I did some work in studying how people, do the astrology type of thing, but it didn't really resonate too much with me. And so I just started looking at why they would designate the planets to these metals, and so that led me to find the what's called a galvanic cell, which is essentially just a battery. And then once I did that, I just saw the different elements of the battery and then related it to the world, and it sort of spiraled out of control from there, and I just kept searching and searching, and just tried to apply these concepts to what we see. And that was yeah.
well, that's awesome.
Now you've got me intrigued.
Yes. I'm checking on my really good Globebusters in chat. Really, Cammie, I know how batteries work, but the other one. Hold on, go back. We're reading this. My wife is getting battery advice from another man. Oh, okay, you guys. Lucas, I had to step back, and we didn't cover that one well because my husband's distracting me and us in the chat. I do want to know how batteries work, but my husband and I are married, so therefore we don't understand each other. I don't know how to say it better than that. We love each other. We respect each other. We do understand each other a lot, but he is of the most technical, and getting everything perfectly verbally right and understanding. He's a very, very verbal, words have meaning in the exact type of order where I am. I see everything spinning around. I see the visuals. I see the colors flashing. I see the energy flows. And we almost need a conduit between me and my husband to translate. I think that would be it. So, Lucas, I am looking to another man for battery advice. We're going to call it a marital aid.
Well, it's a good thing you get plenty of batteries.
So, yeah, I can't think of a better marital aid than somebody that can help me put the right words to my vision so I can talk to my husband. I love that. I love it. So I hope your wife's a good sport, Lucas.
I don't know about that.
But no, I assure you, our battery aid is talking about Earthrealm and how the world really works and how it all comes together. And I can think of nothing more exciting than that.
So
See what
how
happens when
long
you get
did
old?
you? So how long did you research this stuff? First the Zodiac, and then start looking into batteries. Because I
guess
mean,
it's
I tell
yeah.
people, yeah, I researched this subject, and when you say it, it's one thing, but when you think about it, I mean, I put 18 months into some subjects, researching and studying them. So I was just wondering, how long did it take you to get to the point where you understand these things the way you do?
Well, I spent before I even done my first video, I spent nearly 2 years just trying to put it together and actually understanding it myself. So it's taken a long time to get to the point where I am now. And recently, I haven't really done any videos on it because I've been working on an experiment, and that's nearly finished, just to prove out what I've done, so that I can back up what I'm saying. So the experiment is basically modeling what I've been talking about, and so hopefully that helps people understand what's happening as well, so I can actually show it in reality. But it's taken a long time for sure.
Oh yeah, a lot of the good ones do. Yeah, I can't wait. I remembered you showing me a diagram of this a while back. And yeah, I
Yeah.
think it should really help just show people how you you think that it's working, how things are going on.
Yeah, I hope it actually proves something for sure. And if not, there's a lot of parameters that could be involved with it as well. So there's many reasons why it wouldn't work, but there's also the concepts to me seem fairly sound, and it's based on something that basically everyone carries around in their pocket. For their phone, everyone's got a battery for something. So the basis of it seems legitimate.
The basis of it seems more than legitimate, and as I like with looking at pictures and patterns and that, I think I've pointed out to Elsie, and I know I've gotten some other people's eyes, Karen, and that on how much like Solomon's temple and some of all the different temples look like batteries. They look like battery schematics to me. No, I don't know. Again, I'm not of an understanding of exactly how the batteries work, which is like silly, but the diagrams themselves match, sometimes line for line, and I find that intriguing, and I find it logical. I find it very, very logical and sound that this place would work, like, again, as your perpetual energy machine, or that, again, it's functioning like a battery. It's very real, and I think with the work he's doing, he's looking into the reality of it, and again, how it comes together. It brings us so close. And I think we are so close to understanding. So why he says prove, it might not, it may prove or it might not prove. I think it's more of a we're learning. I care more about the learning than the proof part. I think we're learning, and within the learning, there's so many different parameters and variables. So, can you make a model that does it 100%? No, but you can get the little, when I say you can do it or can't do it 100%, you know what I mean? But I'm saying within the parameters, you can find the pieces they work, tweak it, where to go there. There's just so many different variables to work with that taking it as a proof level to me is not as much as taking it as a common sense and getting there level, like working your way to reality level.
Yeah, definitely. Well, the main thing, especially when you're looking at a galvanic cell, the main driver of the system is the salt water. And when you look at our world, well, we've got plenty of it. So just on that basis alone, it seems it has a function. And being in a closed system, that only adds to how it operates as well. You know, the most difficult thing with this model that I'm explaining is the metallic nature of the sun, the moon, and the planets. And that's, you know, yet to be seen how it's going to function. But that's probably the most difficult concept in the whole of the model.
Yeah, trying to apply something to something you can't actually touch and gather information from firsthand.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's and that's why it needs the model to be working and some sort of proof that way. But there are a bunch of chemical reactions, as far as I can see, that would show this process as far as I can figure out. The the way nitrates work, the way that um, hydrochloric acid is formed. And so there are a bunch of things that actually uh, support this energy transfer for sure.
Alchemy in nature, and that's where I'm a 1,000% agreement with you that I think our design is very intelligent, and that these things, the saltwater is there. It has a use. There's a reason, a multi reason for it, and the fact that a battery that's the main component, I think, tells you a lot.
Yeah, exactly. And the other thing is, when you're looking at the chemical aspects of it, there's exothermic reactions that occur, as well as endothermic, which would be exothermic would be the reactions occurring at the sun, which are hot and outward moving, and then the moon being the negative side of the polarity is endothermic, cold, contracting. So there's this basic fundamental principle that's in this battery, which is that yin and yang, that transfer of energy from one polarity to another, and that really stands out in this model.
I'm excited to see like the experiment and the visual. I saw the diagram also. Can you explain to people what your experiment kind of looks like and is doing? Is that putting you on the spot too much?
No, I can explain it as best as I can. So basically, you've got the basic structure is a galvanic cell, and the galvanic cell consists of like two beakers of water with salt in it, and then you have a salt bridge that connects those two, and the salt bridge is usually the potassium nitrate, um, and then in the model, my model, because the the anode and cathode, which are your positive and negative polarities, two different metals that usually sit within uh, the the salt water or the electrolyte. Well, that's not really what's occurring in our world. The sun and the moon, which would be the negative and the positive side of the terminals, are not in the oceans. So to do that, I've lifted them up and out into the atmosphere, and then I've put um, a vacuum chamber over the whole lot. And what the vacuum chamber does is basically simulates the low pressure that's at higher up into the atmosphere. So you've got a galvanic cell in a vacuum chamber, and then the anode and cathode are outside of the electrolyte. And yeah, that that helps for people. So
Cleared it right up.
and okay, so I'll show you in the diagram for people that may be having trouble following along. So you've got on one side you see the zinc, which is your anode, zinc anode there, and on the other side you've got the copper cathode. And these two are the positive and negative sides of the battery. And so the zinc anode in this case would represent the moon. The copper cathode on the other hand would represent the sun. So the energy flows from the anode to the cathode, and that's where you get that power. And usually those two different metals are placed inside the electrolyte, and they're separated by a salt bridge. So in the experiment I'm doing, I'm basically lifting the two different metals, the zinc anode and the copper cathode, outside of the electrolyte, putting them in a low pressure system, and then I'll heat the copper cathode to start the process of energy movement, which would be basically heating the sun or heating the to get it hot like a plasma like the sun. And then hopefully what should happen is I would switch the power off, the heating mechanism off, and there should be it should nearly self perpetuate in a sense, hopefully.
And what you can expect to see when he's doing that, the water, you actually pick up like movement, much like the tides. Do the visual on that one too. On the thing, I'm seeing what you're saying, and I don't know if everybody else is in seeing the movement that's created. Because in your model, and I've seen some things that you've done, isn't there a movement in the water too that you're getting from this?
Yeah, so there is a flow through the electrolyte, through the porous bridge, which the salt bridge, and there's a from the anode you get positive charges coming off it, and from the cathode you get negative charges, and in the salt bridge they join together, and that creates a neutral charge. So in our world, we would see the ground as being neutral. So it's the combination of those two elements joining together, creating neutrality.
And that's kind of like what they say the ground is in the globe model as well, isn't it? We're getting a positive from the core or a positive from the ionosphere, and then negative charge from the core, and the Earth's surface is neutral.
Yeah, well, and that's how our electricity grid is built up as well. So your house will need to be ground out through, well, the ground, the neutral.
Now, as far as what I was going to say, you just did a visual, because one of the things, like among my studies that I found like most fascinating and interesting is like the oceans and the waters of this realm. You think of the waters and you look at the blue marble, and it's all this consistent color of blue. But what I've learned is there's a definite demarcation between like the Atlantic and the Pacific, the chemicals, you can see where the water changes over. It's like even where rivers merge, anytime you have water meeting water, they've developed their own personality and their own chemical complex. And it's very different. So I'm like looking at your thing with movement, and each, like on your seawater, each of it's got its own recipe and ingredients and affects a little bit differently. Again, it's a complex and beautiful model.
Yeah, definitely. And there's also it could have to do with what's around within the Earth at near those places. So there could be more nitrates, more salts. So yeah, the Earth is full of different elements as well. So they could be definitely having an impact.
And I believe they do. I believe they do. And I think, again, I think you are so on the right track. I'm going to interact with chat a little bit, people talking about how an infinite plane makes more sense going across. We're not even dealing with like what would be outside, but you're going to have a boundary zone on this just to.
Yeah, electrically, it has to end somewhere.
It has to end
If it
somewhere.
were
You have to have a
infinite,
container.
it wouldn't. We wouldn't have an electrical potential in the atmosphere
So,
if it
well,
was an
thank you, Zach.
infinite electrical plane.
Exactly.
Theoretically, at least. That's what they say. The way electricity works, if the plane goes on forever, then the strength of the field wouldn't dissipate and become a point source eventually. It wouldn't start dropping off and get up to the 1/r². It just doesn't. An infinite plane, which we couldn't test really, but it would be an infinite amount of electricity. It would mean it would. I don't see it. I think there has to be an edge, at least to the electrical circuit of this place. There's an edge. There may go on beyond that infinitely.
Yeah, we don't know what would be outside the boundary, but they're in the way that things work just logically when you look at, again, gas pressure, when you look at electricals, when you look at a battery, when you look at all of the pieces and parts on how this could work, a boundary would be necessary. Or logical. I don't know necessary, but it would be the most logical, obvious step to. We're not going to it just for what the heck. It's a thought process that's taken us to there should be a boundary. I know historically they show things, and I've learned a lot from it, again, going up and down. You see the realms running up and down. No, you can say what's outside the bounds to the left and right, not the up and down, or on top of what you would call your bounds on your up and down. And again, you can get into a whole new discussion and ball game. But I almost think it's necessary, or not necessary, but it's only logical when looking at how pieces put together on a puzzle that a boundary is needed to contain it. Leave it in a word place. Zach,
Yeah.
you had a really good.
Yeah, you did.
Sorry, I was just looking at some of the stuff in chat. And people are saying they're stuck on space. Like, well, if it's not an infinite plane, then you're saying there has to be a space out there. No, you're thinking of things physically. What if, this is all being created and outside of this place there is not?
Mm-hmm.
It's just not.
It's just not. Exactly.
Yeah. Jesse Inth spoke to me in my own language. Thank you, Jesse. In the chat said, yes, Cami, a pressure variation is needed to make the pulse. Yeah, to make the pulse, and you need the pressure to make the pulse, and to do it, just to, again, to tie it all together. And I think we all have so many different pieces. I'm interested. We won't do it on today's show. I'm hoping we'll do it maybe sometime during the week and maybe come together for a show and do it. But I'd like to put together the magnetics that I've been working on with the battery that Lucas has been working on, and see how they merge or don't merge, or see what we can learn from it. I'm completely fascinated and scared because what he's saying makes so much sense to me, and yet what I'm seeing makes so much sense to me. And I think I'm more scared that they're going to merge perfectly than I'm scared they're not. If that makes sense. If it's a worry. It's and I don't know why either, but it's something. I don't know. I've wanted to talk to Lucas for a long time. His work is really, really called out to me, and I think right now, like, the feeling coming, like with this quarantine now, I'm at a point, I don't know, I did panic attacks and the roller coaster like everybody else. I stayed back. I didn't show up on the Wednesday meetings. I hid and retreated. But there's a new energy. And I feel the need to like tie some of these knots, that we have all of these loose strings and all the pieces out there. Maybe it's just time to start tying them together. Anybody else feeling that way?
Yeah, I'm definitely trying to tie all these pieces together. That's for sure. It's not an easy task, though.
No.
Because everything think you know about a topic, you start looking into it and you realize you believe the exact opposite to be true.
Exactly.
Turns
Exactly.
in,
And
you're looking at a small pond and you start going into it and it opens up into an ocean that you have to swim across now. Yeah, that's why I was wondering how long you've been researching this stuff, because watching your videos, you know it well.
Yeah, it's every time you look into a topic, you have to constantly sift. It's you're just trolling for little bits of little tiny bits of nuggets of truth, and it's quite a lot of work to go through all the information that's sort of little bits are hidden everywhere, but yeah, it's
Mhm.
hard to put it together. That's for sure.
Yeah, I found a neat one on the electric field, and it was 10 hours of research reading papers that people had written, from whenever, the 30s up until recent times. And in that 10 hours, I found one line
Yeah,
that was just like, wow, there's my gold nugget. But yeah, it's like searching for gold, panning for gold. Every once in a while, you might find a nugget.
yeah, for sure.
it almost feels like, and I love doing puzzles. I love doing all kinds of puzzles, but it almost feels like, again, doing a diagram was a giant, putting together a jigsaw puzzle that you're working with the pieces from 1,000 puzzles. But you have to not only get your puzzle together, but you have to figure out your 1 in 1,000 piece that you come across. It's really a real piece of the puzzle you're working on, and not just put out there to distract you.
Say all the pieces aren't on the table yet.
No, they're not all out on the table
The
yet.
really
And
important ones aren't.
right, but there's also why not all the pieces are out on the table yet. There's also a lot more pieces out on the table than belong out there.
Yeah, Josh and I were talking about that this morning, about, do plants really make oxygen? Do we make the CO2? Because we've talked about, a lot of people, you've seen those little sphere terrariums that is like its own little ecosystem where it's just a plant in there and it's circulating all the stuff, and you don't add water to it or anything, and they live decades without you having to do anything to it. And there is no interaction with the outside world to affect it. So how does it do that?
The interaction is the energy for light, for photosynthesis between carbon dioxide and water in the cell. So that's why they can survive, because it's a circular cycle of CO2 and O2, and then in the night the plant will use the O2 as well. Not as much, but it does use a bit. So I think it's amazing how it does it. Do you know what I mean? But
I'm saying, where's the CO2 coming from for the plant to eat off of? If we're not in there
Yeah, inside this sealed environment.
turning the oxygen into CO2, what's doing that part of it?
it's already in there, isn't it?
Well, yeah,
So-
but what's turning the oxygen back to CO2? I know it's in there, but what is making it?
Perfection of the balance. If you take a bit of the atmosphere and just those plants, it's perfectly balanced already. It can live on its own. Man doesn't need to interrupt it. It's not required. The balance will stay the same. That's what it shows.
Yeah, it doesn't need CO2 to live.
Yeah. They don't need us to come along and breathe on them. Feel
Yeah.
that necessarily.
They love it when you get that close, don't get me wrong. But yeah, they don't need us. They don't need the CO2 to survive. That's what I always thought, that plants eat the CO2 and turn it into oxygen, and that's how but they don't need the CO2. It's not like that's part of their eating process. I don't know. It's weird. But yeah, there's so many things that I think are right in front of our faces, as we were talking about, we're just, our fingers right in front of our face, and we're trying to look at our finger and we're just looking right past it.
Going to be deceptively simple, is how I described it this morning. Once
So
we see
obvious.
it, like, oh, son of a bitch, they did it again.
Go.
It was right there the whole time. And isn't that how it feels? And
Mhm.
how did we miss it? That's also how I feel it's the things hit. We have in the chat, if does absolutely nothing exist outside those boundaries? If there's boundaries, I wrote back on that one in the chat. In my humble opinion, source exists outside of the boundaries. So this is people in the chat. I'm going back to it that they're really, if there is no infinite plane and no space, then what is there? Again, all the really good questions. I think these are the good questions. I think these are the really good thoughts. I think this almost like leads into what I was talking about earlier on that article, Josh, on how in the last basically, century, how our thought process has totally changed. Not only with religion and that, but some of the things on it that it used to be that our deepest thinking was about, like what's Joshua was saying, what's on the other side of the realm, or doing that, what's afterlife, what's the deep thinking, what are the answers to all of these questions, when what's really happened to this world is all of our best minds are now directed to how do we extend physical life and achieve transhumanism instead of what more is out there. I mean, we've completely shifted our gears. And I do my crazy pause where I leave you on that one, on a gears thing. But again, it did take me there. And we really have shifted our gears on that and how we think about things and what's important to us and what the deep questions are. And right now we've turned the deep questions into how can we live forever, transhumanism, a few years longer, extend life instead of what is death about? What is life about? What is out there?
Yeah, how do I prepare for this next process? Instead, people are trying to avoid that process. This thing that, is inevitable. It's a part of life. And now we're focusing our attention on not having that process happen and not looking beyond that process.
And our clergy are now that, doctor, can you, like, if I take this drug, can I live a month longer? I mean, that's our clergy. How do I get that extra month in life? Not what more is there? Really, again, it's really, we haven't thought of much, but it's really a mindset change that's happened over this last century that's never ever in history been there.
Instead of blessings like people used to go to get, now they go to get prescriptions. Prescribe you, my son. May you live another year longer.
Zach and I are doing the garage crossover.
I think you're right. I mean, it's certainly from the ancient point of view, life used to be about preparing for death, and our lives seem to be trying to avoid it.
Exactly. I left in chat. I was hoping Josh would read it, or at least the first few paragraphs of it.
I've
where
got
it got into it in the lab coats. It was an article in The Guardian, which occasionally mainstream media does have some interesting things to say.
So this is what Yuval Noah Harari from The Guardian, theguardian.com. It says, will coronavirus change our attitudes to death? Quite the opposite. Will the coronavirus pandemic return us to more traditional and accepting attitudes towards dying, or reinforce our attempts to prolong life? The modern world has been shaped by the belief that humans can outsmart and defeat death. That was a revolutionary new attitude. For most of history, humans meekly submitted to death, Up to the late modern age, most religions and ideologies saw death not only as our inevitable fate, but as the main source of meaning in life. The most important events of human existence happened after you exhaled your last breath. Only then did you come to learn the true secrets of life. Only then did you gain eternal salvation or suffer everlasting damnation. In a world without death, and therefore without heaven, hell, or reincarnation, religions such as Christianity, Islam, and Hinduism would have made no sense. For most of history, the best human minds were busy giving meaning to death, not trying to defeat it. The Epic of Gilgamesh, the myth of Orpheus and Eurydice, sorry, I should be able to pronounce this, the Bible, the Quran, the Vedas, the countless other sacred books and tales patiently explain to distressed humans that we die because God decreed it. Or the cosmos, or Mother Nature, and we'd better accept the destiny with humility and grace. Perhaps someday God would abolish death through a grand metaphysical gesture, such as Christ's second coming. But orchestrating such cataclysms was clearly above the pay grade of flesh and blood humans. Then came the scientific revolution. For scientists, death isn't a divine decree, it is merely a technical problem. Humans die not because God said so, but because of some technical glitch. The heart stops pumping blood. Cancer has destroyed the liver. Viruses multiply in the lungs. And what is responsible for all these technical problems? Other technical problems. The heart stops pumping blood because not enough oxygen reaches the heart muscle. Cancerous cells spread in the liver because some chance of genetic mutation. Viruses settled in my lungs because someone sneezed on the bus. Nothing metaphysical about it. And science believes that every technical problem has a technical solution. We don't need to wait for Christ's second coming in order to overcome death. A couple of scientists in a lab can do it. Whereas traditionally death was the speciality of priests and theologians and black Cossacks, now it's the folks in white lab coats. If the heart flutters, we can stimulate it with a pacemaker or even transplant it with a whole new heart. If cancer rampages, we can kill it with radiation. If viruses proliferate in the lungs, we can subdue them with some new medicine. True, at present, we cannot solve all technical problems, but we are working on them. The best human minds no longer spend their time trying to give meaning to death. Instead, they are busy extending life. They are investigating the microbiological, physiological, and genetic systems responsible for disease and old age, and developing new medicines and revolutionary treatments. Shall I go on? That just seemed natural.
Yeah, I think after that, here where I wanted it to end, or where I read up to, or where I thought it was really good, was just it saying, there you go, our best minds are no longer contemplating that. And I think that's true. People aren't contemplating the big questions anymore. It's all about how to live longer. And I don't know, it struck a nerve in me. I don't know how you guys all feel on it, but I thought that when we talked about the lab coats and the code of respectability and the way that we wear it and doing it more like astrophysics, and that it's more true and more applicable, really, the way that we treat doctors as our salvation. And I think that's probably one of the things that most needs to change, is they're there to help you, but they can't be your salvation.
Not your salvation.
So how
Not
are
your
things out on the outer skirts of the pond, Lucas? Has this really affected your local community?
Yeah, people seem to be a little bit, different with it all. But me personally, I haven't been affected that much. I'm only in a small town, so I've just got a market garden, and I've been busier than ever. When people started freaking out, they wanted to get food and get food locally. So it's been okay. My wife does catering, and that's all pretty much stopped. All the weddings and different things like that. So that was a bit of a hit to us for sure. But in general, when I talk to people, they seem a little bit more open to what's going on, and which is a good sign. And they seem to think that there's something else at play, which we all know there is a deeper agenda to this. But it's good to see people that are questioning what's going on, and yeah, it's interesting these times, that's for sure.
Yeah, I love the market gardening. It's awesome. Good job.
Yeah, I set that up probably 2 or 3 years ago. Just in while I'd learnt about the economic state of the world probably 6 or so years ago, and so that was my prepping. Yeah,
Yeah, same here. I just learned because I wanted to know how to make my own food because I saw the way things were going. And I just fell in love with the idea of, you know, doing it for other people that can even, like the market garden.
yeah, it's such a nice thing to do for sure, because there's nothing better than giving people a fresh box of veggies, and knowing that you're helping their health, and so it is a really nice feeling.
Yeah.
And they haven't put any damper on like local farmer market type of things, and so it's all worked for you while there.
Yeah, they all stopped. So all the farmers markets around here, they just shut up shop, and so I basically just went directly to the customers that way. So and some of the other shops like pubs and things, they've closed as well, so they weren't taking as much salads and those sort of things as well.
That's remarkable. Are you now? You would be at harvest time. We're starting springtime in here. We're only expecting 1 or 2 more snows here in Colorado before spring is officially sprung. But you're coming across harvest time now.
Yeah, that's right. I'm in the fall, but sorry. Yeah, the plants I grow are quite quick growing, so they're not really that long term. So I can keep going for a fair while. And autumn is actually quite a nice time of year for us. Um, it seems to just have a sort of pleasant um, temperature that sort of holds.
Yeah, I know a lot of plants here, they don't like midsummer at all. And if you get a lot of your leafy greens and stuff like that, you can put a second whole garden in the middle of the summer. You start it, and by the fall, and they love it. Like you said, as long as you have somewhat of a mild climate and it doesn't get too cold, they love the chillier weather than they do the real hot days.
Yeah, definitely. And it gets hot here, that's for sure.
Yeah.
Ju- Just to get back to that sort of idea of, death being removed from society. If you go back to like the older sort of, cultures and that, they were still in this farming existence, and they could see the cycle of, basically the sun, as well as the process of farming. And it really shows, the springtime, and it's analogous to the human life as well. Born, and then springtime, you're getting a little bit older, and then the summer solstice is where you sort of at your height and in peak strength, just like you'd be in your 20s and 30s, and then your power sort of wanes and goes down, and then finally you get to the winter solstice, and that would be your death, and then the cycle starts again. So there's this idea of sort of reincarnation is built into this cyclic idea of life, and going through that process.
That is really interesting. I was
It
thinking
does.
about that article too, just about trying to eradicate death and how much of that is just more human frailty because grief is such a weird little bastard. The way that grief can just alter the way a person normally thinks and normally behaves. I think it gives it, I don't know, that scary connotation almost, because the vacuous nature of death for the living just creates sadness and anguish. And it brings up all these existential questions and spiritual questions, of which there is no answer, so they're just sort of left scratching their heads, grasping at straws. And I think it's that hubris of man to think that they can overcome death is the same kind of thinking that gives us chemtrails, and that gave us HARP, and all this other, as if we actually can reasonably control Mother Nature, as if we can pretend, but when Mother Nature pushes back, you very quickly realize that you were never in control. And I think that's why I get that funny butterflies in my belly when I stand out and look out across the ocean, or when I see a huge Rocky Mountain range and just that overwhelming grandness that makes you so insignificant. And that just scares the shit out of a lot of people. And it turns out you can control a huge amount of people with just a little bit of fear. And we're seeing that play out right now. But it wasn't that long ago. It was playing out in a very similar situation. So before he completely passes out and falls asleep, I wanted to reach out to Adam, because we were having a conversation a few weeks ago, and Adam had mentioned something about the Spanish flu. And I'd heard all the normal, typical stories of the Spanish flu. I've heard some pretty normal conspiracy theories that you might expect from the Spanish flu. But what Adam said, so matter-of-factly, was something I had never heard of before, and it kind of threw me off. And I mulled over it for a few days, and I decided I wanted to have Adam on to discuss this and talk about this a little bit, just because I thought it was so interesting. And in yet another way that this Spanish flu can really tie in, I think, with what's going on with whatever this coronavirus that's been going around that they're calling COVID-19. Whatever it is, how it relates. So, Adam, if you're still there,
Yep.
I would love to discuss that a little bit.
Yeah. So, yeah, I mean, I did, in an uneducated way, just respond with, yeah, because I always remember being told at uni by one of the lecturers, oh, yeah, that's just a cover up. They all died of aspirin overdose. So it's one of those things that just always stuck with me. So that was basically the crux of it. Obviously, back then, toxicology.
Oops, sorry. I got to stop you.
Oh, yeah, indeed.
Well, for those of you who might not know, I want to welcome our brother in arms, Mr. Walt Johnson, Flat Earth Head, Facebone 777. Walt, I'm so happy you decided to pop in for a moment.
I'm glad I'm here as well, Josh. Thank you for that warm welcome. Hello, everyone. I see we have a full house.
Wow.
Hey, what's up?
How we doing, brother?
Whoa.
Hi, Canada. I'm doing all right. Making it. It's tough, guys. It is, tough as it can get. But the good part is she's surrounded by love, and I tell her every day how much you all are sending love and prayers her way as well, and it brings a big smile to her face. So thank you all so much. I haven't even got time really to get in chat. I was trying, my computer's messing up. So hey, chat. Glad you guys are here as well. Oh, I see we have LC King as well. Hi, LC.
Hi, how you
Lucas,
doing?
Walt, Lucas.
Hi, Lucas.
Nice to meet you.
Good to meet you as well. So I hate to rudely interrupt. What was the topic at hand?
We were discussing the fact that the 1918 Spanish flu epidemic was merely a massive cover-up from aspirin overdoses.
That must mean that my buddy Adam is in the house.
He is indeed.
What's up, Adam? How are you, friend?
I'm not bad. How are you, mate?
Making it, man. Making it. Tough stuff, but making it. But yeah, I've been kind of telling people the little history of the electromagnetic history of these pandemics. But when we get to this one, I always say, I got a good friend that told me a little different story here. Sorry, we need to talk about that. So I would like to hear it.
Well, we'd only just started, Walt. We'd just been saying that it was just something that was matter of fact in my head. It wasn't, I didn't know it wasn't known, but I'll screen share, Josh.
I'd never heard this, Adam.
You know, I see. It's just weird, isn't it? So I know that's like, this is kind of the standard rhetoric, which is in the New York Times, that it had a possibility of causing a few problems and people could have overdosed on aspirin. So you kind of think of gastric bleeds and people, things like that. And obviously, back then, rays, which is kind of swelling of the brain, which is why you don't use aspirin in kids, hadn't been discovered. So there was issues like that. But in all of these things, they try and play it down a little bit. They're talking here about dosages and stuff like that, but kind of try and play it down a little bit. And I come across this one, Josh, which was just like 10 myths about the flu. It originated in Spain. This one I want to come to in a bit because I think this has more pertinence to today than anything. First wave was the most lethal. This this is quite funny. Just, this one came in 3 waves. The first 1918, what we're in now, then one later on after the summer, and then another one early 1919. And I suppose from a virological point of view, that might be the justification for this continued social distancing too. Virus killed most people who were infected with it. Not true. Even though that's the impression, which again, I think is quite relevant. Therapies of the day had little impact on the disease. This is where its level of coverage is. Look, in this Smithsonian one hypothesis suggests many flu deaths be attributed to aspirin poisoning. There we go. Large doses of aspirin can lead to many of the pandemics, including bleeding. Not generally bleeding in the lungs, but dominated the news of the day. No, it didn't, apparently, and wonder why.
What?
Really? You mean you admit you kept it quiet? It changed the course of the war a little bit waffly, and widespread immunisation it didn't, obviously. It just but that kind of was the point in terms of this theory. Look, it's quite quiet. What I did do was just a little bit of reading as well, which is to look into it. And there's been a lot of studies, I think, realistically, into this. Josh, any chance you could read maybe the opening part of this? This relates kind of to explain what happened, what the hypothesis is. I'll just summarise it basically. But this is kind of a pathological bit of it. It's the high case fatality rate, especially among young adults during the 1918 influenza pandemic, is incompletely understood. So we don't know. Although late deaths showed bacterial pneumonia, early deaths exhibit extremely wet, sometimes hemorrhagic lungs. The hypothesis presented herein is that aspirin contributed to the incidence of severity of the viral pathology, bacterial infection, and death. Because physicians of the day were unaware of the regimens 8 to 31 grams per day produced levels associated with hyperventilation and pulmonary edema. Missed it. Oh, wow. It's obviously American. In 33% and 3% of recipients, respectively. Recently, pulmonary edema was found in autopsy of 46% of 26 salicylate intoxicated adults. Experimentally, salicylates increase lung fluid and protein levels and impair mucociliary clearance. In 1918, the US Surgeon General, the US Navy, and the Journal of American Medicinal Association recommended use of aspirin just before the October death spike. If these recommendations were followed and if pulmonary edema occurred in 3% of patients, a significant portion of the deaths may be attributed. Now, again, here they kind of play it down a little bit. There's some nice bits in this, which I won't relate too much, but this is quite significant, certainly from a chemist's point of view. Today, you would have 2 375 milligram tablets. So what's that? 750 milligrams 4 times a day. So that's what, 3 grams. Here you can see what's being recommended.
Can I give a quick shout out to both Patricia Steer and James True hanging out in chat? Walt shows up. Jesus, can the night get any better? Lucas is here hanging out. Man, I'm so glad we do this every Friday.
Just
what's the how much was the dose that they were giving people?
Up to 32 grams.
8 to 32. That's quite the variation.
Been recommended. Just quick, I won't go into too much. The occurrence of pulmonary edema in humans with salicylate intoxication is well documented, and I'll leave it at that, really. What else is... This goes into a fair bit of detail again. I'll post it in the link after I've finished rambling so people can read it. But what's interesting, the pathology of the early deaths is again consistent with aspirin toxicity and virus-induced pathology. So they might have come down with something, but what killed them was the fact that they bled to death in their lungs. Now, this, as I've mentioned, it was recommended by the military. But what's also important is, and this is really from a big pharma point of view, there was a huge push by Bayer. Excuse me. They just lost the patent on aspirin, and lots of other people doing it. So they were purporting the purity of theirs, massive advertising for it as they, tried to maintain this dominance. And obviously, they couple all this. It does work, but not in those doses, couple all this with a massive influx of aspirin onto the market as everybody else tries to market stuff. And now I know today that if you take Advil and you take this Nurofen, that's actually the same drug, So it's very easy to overdose. You can imagine people taking Mr. Parsons' fever cure along with the Bayer product. So, that's what happens in a lot of overdoses, or non-intentional. People don't realise what they're taking similar products, particularly with paracetamol today. That's the drug of choice now that people manage, or Tylenol, as you guys would call it. So, yeah, that's kind of what I found out, Josh. It does appear, like I say, but for none of this to be known, but for it to be well known in, like I say, in pharmaceutical circles is quite interesting. But like I say, what I found out was actually just a level of detail with regards to aspirin toxicity and its relevance in giving the same symptoms. Like I say, I'd recommend reading this document. It's
I
very,
would recommend the world read this document, because I do know what they're pushing. If you were to go to CNN and look and like do CNN in Denver, even they're referring back to the 1918 pandemic a lot right now, and they're using it as ways to draw lines. And one of the things that they did is they wrote a story about Denver in general, on how you had the mayor of Denver that like the pandemic wasn't that bad, this and that, and he opened they're like giving parallel to what's going on now to what was going on then, and saying on how he kowtowed to the pressure and opened the city up early, and how Denver got decimated by the pandemic because it came back later in October and November, and it wasn't the original pandemic, but it was the back wave after they opened things up. And they're putting that basically headline worldwide right now as an example of like what will happen if we leave quarantine too early. And then they're also doing a story in Gunnison, Colorado, was a community, a valley community that quarantined off their entire valley for the pandemic and didn't let anybody come or go. And they had, with death around them, they had 0 fatalities. I'm guessing there was no aspirin delivery in there, is what it's sounding like. But again, because they're starting to play the 1918 pandemic with a way of how it hit, we might be wanting to pay attention to that. Like, again, if it really wasn't its well known aspirin overdose, that's amazing. Thank you for sharing that.
I've posted
Adam, that's you.
in chat, so it's
That's huge. And you're saying it's extremely well known. I had never heard of it.
That's exactly what I said, Cammy.
Right, until Adam told us about it, that whatever meeting we had, that was the first I heard it. Of course, I noticed that story made the rounds not long after you had that discussion with us, which I thought was quite interesting.
I'm sure I think that's probably the first of many cover-ups.
I wanted to extend a shout out in the chat that we did earlier with extend the Patricia one, just saying like how excited I am. I don't know if anybody is aware of it, but Patricia is going to be restarting her channel as a Truther channel. And I cannot wait to have her back. She's in our chat now. She wasn't available. I was hoping she could come on the show today for like just a couple 10 minutes and tell us like if she has any plans, or like if she has a show time, a show date, or what her things are. But I know that her feet are wet and she's getting back in the game. And I knew she's been through a lot, and everybody needs some time to reflect and get themselves together. But I am so glad she is back in the game. She is such an amazing person and such a woman of strength and a strong voice out in our community, and I'm so pleased to have her back. So welcome back, Patricia. Can't wait. Just cannot wait. And
Same.
again, if you have anything that you can share, we'll send you a link and jump you on. But I know it made my week. It's part of my feeling better, Patricia. I don't know if you know, and I've been like kind of hiding from the world, retreating. I think all of us have gone through moods, but you were a big inspiration on me having some good energy today. Thank you.
Not for nothing. But for me, looking back, it does sort of seem like once Flat Earth and Other Hot Potatoes channel was gone, that was the first thing that sort of threw me off balance. And I've been stumbling around ever since. It marked the fall. It was the defining moment of when things really started to turn south. And now look at us. Now look at us.
Yeah, it's felt often. It's felt that, and Patricia's coming back. It's feeling better on balance. And today, look, we came back with no plans. This has been a great show.
That's exactly
or
right.
Or is it just me? Is it just me, or has this been great?
It has
Chat?
been great.
No. But
I'm
yeah,
digging it. I'm digging it the most.
Walt, I'm digging it the most because I get to hear your voice. I've missed it.
I've missed you guys, truly, truly. And I have to echo your sentiment of just between what I'm dealing with here with mom and just the craziness of what's going on around the world. It is good to have this family to come hang out with and get lots of hugs and loves from, and to see all the positivity. Patricia coming back, friends I haven't seen in quite a while, hanging out in chat again. Shout out Bag. Vagabond, glad to have you around again, friend. And everybody, like I said, I saw Nemo, I saw a lot of the scouts from the Ironworks in chat. Love you guys. So glad you're here. It is much needed.
Isn't we do? We have Patricia in chat. Yay. Patricia thinks it's been a great show, so that's what counts for me. But sweetie, you make a difference. And Walt, you make a difference having the people around you, and just even again to be able to retreat, go away, hide in your shell if you need to, and come back and see everybody's still there.
It is
Or
good to know you
again,
guys are all still here. It really is.
and it seems to, for some reason, Patricia feels really good that you're back. It changed the air. So just again, thank you for, sometimes that's all it needs is a little refreshing and a little hope.
That's what it is, hope. Yay! We have things to look forward to again.
Yes.
I vaguely remembered what that was like.
And spring is coming. The grass is getting green. It looks like quarantine will be ending, so maybe I can sell this house and go to the forest. Another hope. Hope floats. It's, I know, something to hold on to.
I got one more geeky bit before I shoot.
Just one?
Particularly for Zach and Cameron.
Please geek out.
Life machine, guys. Donald Trump said something in the week with his sunshine stuff. So Roxanne sent me off and made me do some homework. And I did it on her show, but I just thought I'd show you guys, if you don't mind. It was what I showed. Extracorporeal irradiation, UV blood. So I was just looking it up. It's what they're talking about is shining sunshine into people's blood. So if you look at a bit of Wikipedia.
So they're like transfusing it and blasting it with...
Well, yeah, that's one way. There's the three ways you kind of standard intravenous.
I have the visual of my hot tub and running the line over the UV light. I'm sure that's not right, but I'm picturing like the way that my ozonator works on my hot tub.
This is
You'll have to tell us more.
Well, that would be the second way, the transcutaneous way. So through the skin, just shining more concentrated beam, alpha beam through. And then the extracorporeal, which is basically taking the blood out, I think, passing it through a machine. So I did a little sniffing around on this, and it came up on PubMed stuff. This has been around for years. I'll post this article as well. And it, like I said, it relates to the, instead of, frequency and sound, they're basically the supposition that obviously with ultraviolet radiation, these certain energy photons affect bacterial and viral matter to a much more significant and destructive way. There's plenty of history of this from early on to Nobel Prize winning treatments, etc. Scroll down to that guy. There's the machine. So yeah, by the 40s, I think it was well known and traced. Like I said, this is huge. This article, but it goes into great detail. But again, I'll post it. But just to kind of probably summarize it, I'll probably read it. It's probably the best thing, isn't it? Ultraviolet blood irradiation was extensively used in the 1940s and 50s to treat many diseases, including, there we go, septicemia, pneumonia, tuberculosis, arthritis, asthma, and even poliomyelitis. The early studies were carried out by several physicians in the USA and published in the American Journal of Surgery. However, with the development of antibiotics, UBI use declined, and there's now being called the cure that time forgot. Later studies were most performed by Russian workers and in other Eastern countries. And in the modern view in Western countries is that UBI remains highly controversial. This is probably worth a little read, actually. This chapter discusses the potential of UBI as an alternative approach to current methods used to treat infections as an immune modulating therapy and as a method for normalizing blood parameters. No resistance of microorganisms to UV radiation has ever been reported, and multi-antibiotic resistant strains are as susceptible as their wild-type counterparts. Low and mild doses of UV kill microorganisms by damaging the DNA, while any DNA damage in host cells can be rapidly repaired by DNA repair enzymes. However, the use of UBI to treat septicemia cannot be solely due to UV-mediated killing of bacteria in the bloodstream, as only 5 to 7% of blood volume needs to be treated with UV to produce optimum benefit. It's interesting that I'll summarize it again. It appears that basically what you're doing by destroying these, you then create lots of destroyed cells, which gives you lots of chunks for antibodies to go on identifying, or for cells to go in and create antibodies too. So it's not like it appears it's not like you're radiating the whole of the blood. You're giving the immune system a head start by already breaking down the pathogen to allow your immune system to then rapidly attack it with the keys it builds, knowing on that. There's a lot of stuff as well that relates to then the positive effects of the UV light in terms of what happens in terms of the immune response, red and white blood cells, and so on. Really, really interesting. I've yet to read it all. I've got to go into the detail of some of this. And when we know that UV light helps cleave LDLs and HDLs into the vitamin D, for example. So, it has massive effects, UV sunlight, when exposed to the blood, just in a normal biologic function. But for it to be supposing this is really quite cool. And if you can actually boost it, as I've suggested, which then ruptures it, what you in effect creating, quite ironically, is a natural vaccine. Because that's what a vaccine is. It's the injection of the pre-destroyed cell with a stimulant, an adjuvant, such as mercury, to stimulate that immune response. Well, you've already got it there. The bonus of this mechanism is you don't have to try and find the right strain. The right strain's already in you. All you've got to do is burst it with UV light.
Congratulations, you outgeeked us. That was very good.
That was
Actually,
really good.
UV is amazing. I know that our John Ellis water machine uses it to energize water, and I know our hot tub uses it to make ozone. I don't know if you can explain that one, but you run it in a hot tub and it creates ozone to disinfect the hot tub. I know the dentists use it to harden fillings, and it's when sitting in a dental chair. And more than anything, I know that I light up my stuff with it on my Meriscope and doing my little modeling, and that I know that I use UV to make things glow.
It's
I geeked you, Adam. Come on. No, but that is fascinating.
well, all thanks to Donald Trump. In that one, I'm afraid that was and Roxanne setting some homework, but he's kind of alluded to. I assume that's what it is. There's some videos out of people doing it, but it does appear to be, like I said, what struck me was it's like one of those things they buried, like the Rife machine. You know, get rid of that. That works too well.
Well, I can verify that the Rife machine works too well, and it's definitely buried. So much to learn, so much stuff that again is right in front of you, with again the uses of the UV light and that it's out there. Again, it's unveiling the truth, looking at what's the right puzzle on the puzzle pieces on the table. There's so many wrong pieces out there. It's picking up the right piece.
That's it. I'm all geeked out.
That was really good. I really liked that, Geekin. That was good.
Last bit of conspiracy was that picture you've seen in the thumbnail a while ago. Researching that Spanish flu, right? I came across this in one of the articles, which is from a. Oh, I'm back to that screen. On screen. Which screen have you got, Josh? Not that one now.
While you're finding that, I have from the chat, Adam, this is for you. I've heard infrared light therapy can boost testosterone. Is this true? If so, I'm thinking of buying an infrared sauna. Lenderground.
Not about testosterone. But I mean, light therapies are used in so many things. You've got your infrared to use for muscles and rheumatics, aren't they? I think. But even proper medicals, I was saying on Roxas for puffer, so UVA and B light treatments for the treatment of psoriasis, which again has an infective component in it, but also it stimulates healthier cell regeneration, epithelial cell regeneration in psoriasis and that. Just light, you know, not tons of steroids or analogues of vitamins, but just the UV light itself in a concentrated way. So we already know it has some uses. I just found it amazing that it had that level of history and recognition. No, never heard of it. Just till Donald fucking Trump mentioned it.
Okay, on that note with you guys, it's on the geeking out. I may have to drop out a little bit. It's time to get dinner on. We are having tonight, in case anybody is wondering, we're having upstairs pork tenderloin, mashed potatoes, gravy, and green beans. But I'm going to be listening in a little bit while doing the final prep of getting this all together and on the table. Happy Friday.
It was good to hear you, Cammy. I'm about to head out too, everybody. I need to get a little rest. It was good to talk. Good to see everybody in chat. Can't wait to talk to you all again at length. Love y'all.
Love you, sweetest dreams, Walt.
Yeah, love you, Walt. Stay strong. Take care of yourself.
Definitely will. Thank you all.
Love you.
Love you, man. All right, brother. Love y'all.
See ya.
Take care, Lucas. Wish I could have hung out and talked to you more. It'll come.
Yeah, it will.
All right, man. Y'all take care in chat. Thank you all. Shout out to everybody. Love y'all. Bye.
Well, right before you go, I want to tell you Lucas
Yes.
is coming back.
Good.
Lucas is coming out for an
Good.
all-out geek show, okay? I
Nice,
promise you.
Nice. Good, good.
Speaking of
All
slides,
Oh, like, good. I love presentations. All right, y'all take care.
All right. See you.
Bye.
all right, we all won't be far out of here. I'm heading soon. Cammy, just look at this. This was the bit I researched in that research, which was it needs to be done. I can't read this one. So it needs an accent, and I certainly can't do a Chicago accent. But it was from the Spanish flu, something that was put up, and I just thought it resonated with today and the fear porn we have, and the but it's so much freer.
Influenza frequently complicated with pneumonia. Did you want me to read this?
You already are.
I already am. Frequently complicated with pneumonia is prevalent at this time throughout America. This theater is cooperating with the Department of Health. You must do the same. If you have a cold and are coughing and sneezing, do not enter this theater. Go home and go to bed until you are well. Coughing, I can't, hold on, coffee something or spitting. What is that word? I can't.
Sneezing.
Sneezing, okay. It's kind of blurry on my screen. Or spitting will not be permitted in the theater. In case you must cough or sneeze, I'm guessing, do so in your hand, kerchief, and if the coughing or sneezing persists, leave the theater at once. This theater has agreed to cooperate with the Department of Health in disseminating the truth about influenza and thus serve a great educational purpose. Help keep Chicago the world's healthiest city in the world. John Dill Robertson. Wow.
When was Chicago the healthiest city in the world?
I
No,
almost, hold on.
Everyone else is dead.
I'm going to read you that last sentence, and I want anybody that knows where this is from to chime in. Help us to keep Chicago the healthiest city in the world. Anyone? Chicago. No, nobody
The
knowing.
Indians called it. The Native Americans.
Okay, we have no Married with Children, Kelly Bundy,
Oh, yeah.
Weather Girl,
Chicago.
the giant Strom coming to Chicago.
That's a Kelly Bundy moment.
It's a Kelly Bundy moment.
The best is that she's from Chicago, isn't she?
Yeah, she was from Chicago on the show, so that made her reading the script even more. But she was a weather bunny, and not quite as good as the one from Mean Girls, but still. A little
I
bit
still
of
love the Bundy Bounce episode. I'll never forget that one.
Oh, do tell, remind us.
Where she was doing the new Alante Cadillac. She was the new girl, and she was doing the Bundy Bounce, where she would like go down real low and then bounce, like hop up and just start bouncing. And that won her the thing. And then she got hurt, and someone stole it from her, and it was like Al's secret weapon or something like that. He came.
Oh my God, it sounds like the perfect promotion or the perfect media advertising. You know what that makes me think of?
Yeah.
It makes me think of an unlisted video on David Weiss's channel. Though actually it shouldn't be unlisted, it should be out there, and it was Rose 777 for some, but for the guys who haven't seen it, watch her latest video with her friend. Intro in it is show stopping. Is great show, Rose.
Is it on the same level as Alan's birthday shout out? Shout out, happy birthday, Alan, by the way.
Cammy may not have seen that. Cammy may not have seen Alan's Naked News shout out. Our
that's pretty cool.
Line producer extraordinaire over on the Ironworks, Alan Holman. They have a TV show there in Canada called The Naked News, where it's the news, but all the newscasters are completely naked. So he got his name shouted out and a happy birthday there by a butt naked woman standing there in camera doing the news. So he got.
Oh, that's awesome!
Isn't that awesome?
Yeah, no, this is right up there with it then, because this is really good. This is just Rose and her friends, but her friends were kind of oblivious to where the camera was and getting ready for the show. So, like, the bendovers are fabulous. They couldn't have planned it better if they wanted to for the male audience. Let's make it a viral video, right?
Well, I'm gonna have to definitely check this out.
And even though David did do it to music with captions, you can find the video itself, the original video, on Rose 777 channel. And I do believe it is her most recent video. So shout out to Rose. Way to go.
Did you say it's unlisted?
Well, David's was enlisted. Did he release it? Look under deep inside the rabbit hole and see if he has like the world's greatest promoter or something.
Yeah, it's pretty funny.
It's pretty funny. If you have it, Zach, you could drop it in there and play it.
I don't. No, we can't play it. David hasn't even put it on his channel yet. Stop it.
Of course we can. What's he gonna do? Take away our birthday? I would do it if I wasn't.
He's been on fire lately.
He has been on fire. He is incredible.
So many videos have come out in the last week and a half. He's just been 3 or 4 a day.
Which is why we would play it. Is I think we should irritate David.
Let's keep him going on his.
Let's keep him going. Yeah. All right, everybody. Happy Friday. Dinner is just about ready to serve. So thank you, everybody, for coming. Thanks, guys. I will try to make it to Wednesdays and re-engage a little bit better. More than anybody, Lucas, thank you. Hopefully, maybe tomorrow or the next day we can get together on a one-on-one and actually get into some details. I would love to do that.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks for the invite.
And thank you more than anything for dropping everything and coming on today's show and making it so wonderful. Thank you.
Oh, that's you're welcome.
We really do appreciate you coming on. Sorry if we seem a bit out of sorts.
We are.
Yeah, that's it. We are. But it's been an absolute pleasure having you on, Lucas. And
yeah, thank you.
More than welcome back anytime at all.
Do you have any projection on when your model might be ready for presentation or just the testing phase?
I've just got to get one more part, so it's just a matter of getting that in the mail. And
oh, doesn't that stink? I hate waiting for those one little pieces.
I had one part, but it didn't seem to work, so I have to reorder another one and hopefully that one works. So so it's nearly finished.
Excellent. Yeah, I know these things take time. It's a process. We don't have government funding backing us where we just say, oh, we need one of these, and then it's there tomorrow.
Yeah, that's right. And it's it feels like this thing's drawn out for a long time. So I'll be happy to get it done and over with, sort of thing.
I know I dropped out, but I dropped back in for that because I'm excited for you too. I am so excited to see this. And again,
just did
if it takes a while. Yeah. Savage! I miss Savage. That's what we need to make the show perfect, by the way, is just Savage in one. So that's exciting. I'm dropping back up. I'm sorry. Bad Cammy.
Bad Cammy.
Well, you've got my interest, Lucas. I've pulled the picture of the battery up, so I'm intrigued. I'll look forward to seeing the apparatus and further explanation, mate. Like I said, with slides, I like a slide. Yeah.
Yeah, it's definitely easier when you've got pictures to show, because it's quite it's a bit technical, so it helps to visualize and see what's going on, especially when you're dealing with electricity. I mean, even to me, it still doesn't make a lot of sense in some ways. So it's an odd concept, that's for sure.
Well, we look forward to seeing what you find out. And I don't
definitely,
think
me too.
We can waffle on all night long, no doubt.
No.
We could just call it a short show. Hell, we've not even hit 2 hours yet. You believe that?
God dies, isn't it? Should we have just 10 minutes of silence, so at least we get to that?
Yeah, I'm just,
I think we've
I
had
don't
a
know,
bit
I'm out of
decent
it.
content though.
Yeah, oh yeah. It is good just chatting.
It was nice. Friday's full.
I think it was wonderful to chat, and I think it gives us a thing that we can sit and during the week work down more with Lucas and like really have us something for next week to take apart and look into and go into detail on that. So it's like more a get back on our bicycle or back on our unicycle in my case, find our balance show. That was a good one.
It was a good one.
Yeah, I think we had our season finale with Rose with the season opener.
Yeah, it did kind of
After
seem
that,
that
it
way,
was just
didn't
like,
it?
wow, time for another break.
That's the proverbial premature ejaculation right there.
But it all just went weird then, didn't it? It all went weird.
It did go weird.
Speaking of weird, I'm sorry, I have to do this. I'm not dropping off very good on the show, but I know we'll hit it on Globusters. There's another asteroid, you guys.
Oh no.
Of course.
Yeah. This one looks like it's got a face mask on it. I'm serious. They're showing an asteroid that looks like it's got a little face mask, and it's like asteroid with face mask coming our way.
I saw that on Jaren's camera.
Yeah, you can't make it up because I'm not.
It looked more like a bloody mammogram than a face mask. It was a very odd.
It was a nipple or?
Yeah, you have a look at it. It looks just like a mammogram.
That's probably what it is.
Well, they've got to pull something out to distract, haven't they? And topical. You know, it's not Halloween, so what can they have? Can't have a pumpkin sun.
I love when they use the what was it? The bullet hole from the CD album cover for the ISS hole.
Oh shit.
That's like my level of photoshopping, isn't it? You know what I mean? That's
No. Yeah, it's amazing what I don't know. And they get away with it is the craziest part about it. Even being caught, you know, even though the community is large and growing daily, the truther community, not so much just FE, but the truther, just people knowing that something's wrong and looking for the truth. And they still get away with all this stuff. Like when it's said and done, yeah, who's going to take the blame for all the people's loss in this when it's all said and done? I bet not one politician, not one.
Oh, hell no.
And that's who needs to be held accountable.
That sign says something very interesting. I know it's a little dated, but the second to last paragraph, you have to change the word theatre to these news corporations have agreed to cooperate with the Department of Health in disseminating the truth about Miley Cyrus and thus serve a great educational purpose.
Honest. Really. No, really. We are serving a great educational purpose. Trust us.
Is this first wave educational then?
Wake up! All right, let's get the hell out of here.
Yeah.
Once again, Lucas, thank you so much. Walt.
Thank you.
John Savage.
Miss you, man.
Rob.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yep, yep, yep.
Yep, yep, yep.
All right, then we'll be right back here on Friday. Maybe we'll come up with something. Maybe I will get up off my lazy ass and reach out to Karen B and see if we can't get Karen to come on here. She's just so damn busy. Zach and I were saying this morning that you almost feel guilty asking her if she wants to come on because she's so busy doing stuff every other day.
I know, and Karen, can you do just a little more? I mean, we only get to see you on like 3 times live a day. Come on, just one more time.
You're such a great mom. Your kids are practically raised themselves. Just ignore them for a little bit and come hang out with us.
Twist her arm. I will. I'll go out and I'll twist her little arm and make her come on.
Yeah, we should ask her
special
like
bond with Karen.
tomorrow, so she can, it's not like a spur of the moment, last second.
So she can plan for it.
Well, yeah, just kind of not do so much during the week, so then she can do a little on our show.
Or no, just to not answer anything Iron Realm related. Ooh, that's gonna be that invitation. Not gonna look at that.
Yeah, there's your warning, Karen.
Well, I don't feel guilty at all. I'll work on twisting her arm on it. I won't even feel guilty. I miss Karen.
Yeah, you can find her a lot on her channel, Karen B, or Brian Stavely Live. Brian has a few channels, but if you go into his description on any of his videos, you should be able to find all the channels. He gets quite a few strikes for his open-mindedness and
damn you
telling it how it is. Yeah.
And his subtle way of phrasing it, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I love his approach. But yeah, that approach requires a few different channels because one won't do it. So strike that up pretty quick. And on TFR, Tuesday nights, on Strange World with Mark Sargent, the Karen B Show.
All sorts of good stuff over there.
Yeah,
on TFR.
just about every YouTube chat that has to do with Flat Earth, you might just find her in the chat. All right, I'm done.
All right, I'm done.
Love y'all.
Is there nowhere else you can find Karen B?
Karen Land. You gotta know how to get there. That's the thing.
You need tickets.
We've been invited.
Yeah, it's a magical place. I can't. It's just, yeah, it's where I like to be surrounded by. If I were to walk out my back door and see that every day, I'd be in heaven.
Ditto.
Get us out of here then, Josh, before we all move to Karen's.
Well, I'm just going to get us out of here with our beautiful Ironworks promo.
Yeah, I love this. Well, again, thanks, Lucas. We'll talk to you soon, man. Take care, everyone.
Catch ya.
All right, and Zach, dinner's ready downstairs.
Lucas says, Jesus Christ, just get the fuck gone already. All right, love you guys. We'll see you right back here next week for another episode of Have No Sphere, right here on the Iron Roll Media YouTube channel. You can check us out over there on Truth Frequency Radio as well, tfrlive.com, iHeartRadio. It's you can find it. Just Google it. But make sure you include the search term Ironworks. We're there every Tuesday and Friday from 4 a.m. to 6 a.m. here in the Central Time Zone. And here's just a little bit of snippet of why we enjoy doing the Ironworks so much.
Ironworks with an X.
Good call.
Hi, this is Alan. I like Ironworks because it's where everybody knows your name, and they're always glad you came.
I love Ironworks with Josh, Walt, and Zach. It's like sitting in your front room having a cosy chat with your best friends.
Hi, it's Diva here, and I just want you to know that Ironworks with Josh, Walt, and Zach, it's definitely my favourite dose of reality. Come join the family and keep it flat.
Why sleep in when you could get your dose of iron in the morning? Listen to the Ironworks on TFR.
This is Enlightened Dawn. Roses are red, violets are blue. Iron Rail Media is the best on the plane. To this show, I will forever be true. You guys are truly the best, and I love you guys. I'm so thankful to have you in my life.
Do you like listening to space letters from Never a Straight Answer? Then tune in to The Ironworks with Zach, Walter, and Josh. Break clear of the fear on the Ironworks and become an Iron Scout.
The iron you need to get what you want.